After a horrifying video of a young teen being assaulted after a tennis practice session made rounds on the internet, almost everyone in the tennis world is now questioning just how common this actually is. One of the most prominent figures who raised their voice is none other than Jelena Dokic, who shared her own experience with abuse. If you want to know all the details, stick with us. So let's get right to it. First things first, tennis world horrified by a father's disgusting assault of a 14-year-old. Recently, a certain video has been circulating on the internet, shaking the tennis community to its very core at the casual brutality of it all. In the video, which was posted by anti-violence advocate Igor Juric, we can see a very graphic scene of a young 14-year-old player being slapped, kicked, and thrown to the ground. It is widely believed that the man assaulting her is in fact the girl's father, and that the horrific incident happened after a poor training session. When Juric posted the video, he captioned it by saying that this was yet another brutal act of violence by a father on his own daughter. According to the source that sent him the video, which was captured at a location in Serbia, told him that it was a family that belonged to China. He ended the post by saying they will be filing criminal charges against this monster. Then, in an interview with Sportskita, he shared that he was mildly shocked and that although he's seen some really terrible things in the course of his life, especially because of his job, this was one thing that left the strongest impression so far. It was pretty sickening for sure. Next up, Jelena Dokic reveals her own abuse experience after shocking video. When the video first started getting viral on the internet, it definitely shook the tennis world as a whole, with stars in the sport past and present blasting the horrific scene. One of the most notable of these was the former world number 4, now tennis commentator Jelena Dokic, who has spoken openly about the abuse she suffered at the hands of her father Damir throughout her career. She was one of the first to speak up about the video, sharing an interesting and horrific insight from her own experience. This was definitely not an isolated event. Saying that she was sick and heartbroken after she watched the video, Dokic continued her Instagram post to say, "You think this is brutal?" And while this video was without a doubt brutal, this was actually a normal day for those who go through domestic abuse, especially children. Hitting, ear-pulling, spitting in our faces, throwing us on the ground, punching and kicking us. These are all things that are just another day for abuse victims, and that definitely included the 14-year-old girl in the video. Then she went one step further to share one more chilling insight. Imagine what happens behind closed doors. Coming up, what does Jelena think the tennis world and media should do now? This horrifying situation was exactly why she came forward to speak up and write about it. She shared that the media needs to do more because the people who took the video didn't do anything until her coach started kicking her on the floor. The media needs to talk about domestic abuse more, and those that have large platforms need to raise more awareness about this. And while she definitely wasn't the first, nor the last, to go through abuse like this, the tennis player has one question to ask the sports world. Have things changed yet in the way tennis and society deals with situations like this? Moreover, clubs, federations, and governing bodies need to do their part in stepping up and making sure this kind of stuff didn't happen in their organizations. They needed to do more and, at the very least, raise awareness about it. She also rightfully called out all the journalists and people around the world who lived for stories and gossip to focus on serious situations like these that needed more attention. She said that instead of focusing on gossip as to who was dating whom and which players are playing a Grand Slam or not, it's issues like these that need to be covered so that girls can be protected and have a voice that's being raised for them. She said from her own personal experience that nobody says a word. Speaking of abusive fathers, who are the 5 worst tennis fathers of all time? Unfortunately, the 14-year-old girl in the video and Dokic aren't the only ones who have had difficult and abusive relationships with their dads. There are so many more. And while there are certainly many unhealthy father-daughter relationships behind closed doors, out of the ones we openly know about at least, here are the top 5 worst tennis fathers of all time. First up, Stefano Capriati, father of Jennifer Capriati. If you opened up a dictionary and searched for the meaning of the term pushy parent, you'd probably find a picture of Stefano staring up at you. The tennis world frequently calls him out for dragging his daughter into the professional scene when she was just 13 years old. And while she definitely gained fame in her career, he built up a solid reputation as a bully. After Jennifer turned pro in 1990, she went on to claim 14 whole WTA titles. But shockingly, her father had already signed contracts with a huge amount of sponsors before before she had even hit her first ball on the court. Later, when he was called out for it on US media, he explained that his daughter was just ready for the sport when she was 13 years old. And according to him, the opportunity had to be seized, no matter what the cost, it seems. A year later, Jennifer was arrested for the possession of marijuana. Even worse, her former coach, Pavel Slazal, vowed to never work with a female player ever again. A lot of critics have also accused her father of treating his daughter as a meal ticket, a former USA Today writer Ian O'Connor going so far as to say that he used his daughter as a ponytailed ATM. Critics also speculate that he was the very reason she took a break from tennis back in 1993. Next up, Marinko Lukic, father of Mirana Lukic. Lukic, the father of Croatian tennis player Mirana Lukic, trained his daughter for tennis glory, but it came at a horrible cost. Marinko, who had been a decathlete who participated at the Olympic level for the former Yugoslavia, told his daughter that he would accept nothing less than world number one for her. The good thing was that Mirana's career soared swiftly and brilliantly. She even won the Australian Open women's doubles title back in 1998, but then later that year she made headlines again when she escaped her homeland Croatia to the United States with her mother and 4 siblings. She was just 16 years old at the time. There, she opened up to the press about her terrifying life with her father, which included 10 years of both physical and mental abuse, stating that there had been so many episodes of abuse that people cannot imagine. Once safe, she immediately took a restraining order against him, claiming that both he and her cousin, Milan Lukic, had stolen a good amount of her prize money. And how did her father respond to her accusations? In an interview with The Telegraph, he said that he was never excessively abusive and an occasional beating would take place because of the player's attitude. Sick is what this man was. Coming up, Peter Graf, father of Steffi Graf. This dad saw the potential in his daughter and spent hours hitting a ball with her when she was young, even abandoning his work when she was 7 to focus on the career that he had planned for her. As she soared to stardom, Peter took charge of everything and shielded her from reporters. But there was a darker side to his devotion. He got the nickname Papa Merciless because of how hard he pushed his daughter and was known to force the player to practice immediately before and after long flights. Following up, Damir Dokic, father of Jelena Dokic. Damir Dokic, Jelena's father, was removed from the Wimbledon Championships in 2000 after breaking a journalist's camera. He was also imprisoned for threatening to assassinate Australia's ambassador in Serbia. The former wrestler came close to winning the Bad Dad Career Grand Slam when he was kicked out of the US Open after complaining about the cost of salmon and accusing the Australian Open of rigging the draw. Finally, Jim Pierce, father of Mary Pierce. Jim Pierce once yelled, "Mary, kill the at a tennis competition in which his daughter was playing. Yeah, he mistreated his daughter verbally and physically. His rants during events were sometimes so terrible that the WTA barred him from participating in any future tournaments. The player became so terrified of her father that she obtained a restraining order and hired a bodyguard. We can't get over how terrible these fathers were for their children. And that's a wrap for this video. Were you surprised by any of the dads on this list? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.